How you doing there? Welcome back to Babylon Talmud. Today we're starting Daf Beis, Daf 2 of Masechta Sotah. Woo! Friends, it is exciting times, Of course, it's a new Masechta Sotah. It's always exciting to start a new Masechta together here in Babylon Talmud. But, one second, I hope this doesn't create a problem. One sec. But it's also exciting because, as I've been whining about for the past, I can't even remember how long, I felt a little bit like a fish out of water for the past, for Nidarim and certainly with Nazir, because we haven't had Rashi for the past 5 months. And, I spoke recently with passion about the esteem that a little speck of dust like myself has for the great Rabbeinu Shlomo Yitzchaki, and how Rashi, how Rashi in just a few words brings the highest level of clarities to Sugya of Gemara is just astounding. And, I was complaining and whining and lamenting. I'm telling you, if I was in charge of Babylon Talmud, I would ask me to leave. No, I'm telling you this because we have a matzav over in some of the other things I do. It gets complicated when there are people who are complaining to other people, and it doesn't create a very pleasant atmosphere. And I'm saying I must not have been very pleasant over the past 5 months. And I kept on whining, I don't have Rashi, leave me alone, I'm sorry, I'm a nudnik, I don't have Rashi. So I was a little bit nervous that I was working up Rashi for so long that, it would get to Masechta Sotah and it would fall short. But let me tell you, friends, that's not the case. I'm telling you, mamish, when I read the first Rashi of Masechta Sotah, the first Rashi of Masechta Sotah might be my favorite Rashi in all of Shas. And not because it's the best Rashi, but because it comes after 5 months without Rashi. And just in those first words, maybe we should read it right now. Lishna Dikra Nakat. Oh my gosh. Even that, doesn't that just put a smile on your face? Lishna Dikra Nakat. What do you want me to tell you? Those 3 words even. It's not even a full statement, but it's like, you already Rashi just builds your trust. And he's like, I got you. I'm gonna just get you through this Gemara and you're gonna get it. And it's gonna be clear. And just read me. And all will be good. That's what those 3 words say. To me, at least. Anyways, so I'm just thrilled to be able to study a daf of Gemara with the sort of guidance of Rabbeinu Shlomo Yitzchaki. I'm thrilled. Absolutely thrilled. So it feels like I'm back, I'm telling you, the last 5 months without Rashi was very hard. I feel like I wasn't myself. But now I feel like I can get all excited again. So thanks for bearing with me for the past few months, and I hope Masechta Sotah is going to be gewaldig. But another interesting thing about having Rashi back, and I don't know how you guys are going to feel about this, but because Rashi is so precise in his explanations, there tends to be a lot more content on the page because it can be explained so succinctly, which was not the case in Nidarim and in Nazir, where the pages were much shorter. It was not entirely uncommon to have episodes of Babylon Talmud that were less than 10 minutes even. I feel like the average is probably somewhere between 10 and 15 minutes for a daf. So maybe around 15 minutes for a daf. I think that's not going to be the case anymore. I think that's behind us. It wasn't the case until Nidarim, and I think that that's behind us. So that I think that the dafs are going to be longer again. But I hope that this is going to be geschmack and everything like that. All right. Wow, 5 minutes and I haven't even said anything about Sotah, but it just felt right to give a little bit of admiration to and give some space to acknowledge the godless of Rashi. Anyways, Sotah. Who could tell me about Sotah? So Sotah be'etzem is a situation that happens when you have a husband and a wife, and the husband is suspicious that his wife is having an affair with another fellow. So there's a few things. So there's something called kinui, which is a warning. He warns his wife, like, hey, I don't want you to be with this other fellow. Then there's something called stira. Stira means that witnesses testify that she secluded herself in a room with this fellow. Now, we don't know what they did in that room. It could be that they did nothing in that room. It could be they were playing video games in that room. But we don't know. And in that case, when after the warning, she then secluded herself with this fellow in a private space, now we don't know what happened. If we know that they had bia, well, that's a different story. Then that's not a case of sotah. We know that she had an affair. In which case, if they warned them, right? If they warned the wife and this other fellow that, hey, what you're doing is a capital offense, is capital punishment. So then they're chayiv misa. But if there's no warning like that, but again we know that they had an affair, well then they can't remain married anymore, and she doesn't get her ksuba or anything like that. Now, but if we don't know what happened in that room, all we know is that they were secluded in that room. Well, that's the case of sotah. What happens is she essentially ends up at the Beis Hamikdash drinking some kind of potion, and that potion basically is the one that is going to, the potion will tell us what happened in that room. If she had an affair, so then she dies, and so does the fellow who she had an affair with. Just the potion kills both of them, even though he doesn't drink it, she does, but it kills both of them. And then, if they didn't have an affair, so then, there's all sorts of brachis that she, blessings and stuff that she receives, for being innocent. So that's in the case of sotah. Now there's one other thing that so that was kinoi, the warning. Stira is the seclusion, and tuma means whether or not they actually had bia. If you have one witness. Now, if I understand correctly, it would be that he warned her not to be with a certain fellow, and the Gemara is going to talk today about how many witnesses that has to be in front of. And then, so if there was a warning, right, kinoi, and then there was stira, that she secluded herself with another fellow. So that would make her a sotah, and she would have to drink the potion. But if there's one witness, and the Gemara is going to discuss this today, but if there was one witness who says that that they had an affair, that there was bia, so then she would not be a sotah. Right? Then she wouldn't drink, and they would get divorced. She would not get a ksuba, because there can't be a chiyuv misa with just one witness, but it would be enough to prevent her from drinking the mei sotah. Now another note is that prior to her drinking this potion, they cannot remain married, right? So if there was kinoi and stira, and there's pending the potion drinking, so they cannot remain together during that interim period. Okay. Now, well, we're at 9 minutes already, and we haven't even started the daf. So I do think that these dafs are going to be a little bit longer. Okay. Now, Beis Amud Aleph of Masechta Sotah, all the way at the top, Makani liishto, that if a fellow be'etzem warns his friend, the Gemara is actually going to discuss what's the lashon of kinoi. Let's assume it means warning. So if a fellow, I don't know if I just said his friend, but his wife, if a husband warns his wife not to be with so and so, Rabbi Eliezer Omer Mekani lo alpi shnaim umashka alpi eid echad. So Rabbi Eliezer says that the kinui, the warning, has to be in front of two witnesses. So the husband has to warn his wife in front of two witnesses. But the seclusion, the stira, only needs to be in front of one witness, right? If one witness comes and says that she secluded herself with this fellow, it's enough to make her drink this potion. Or it could even be him himself, right? If he warned her in front of two witnesses, and then he himself comes and says that he saw her seclude herself with this fellow, so then she drinks the potion. Rabbi Yehoshua, Omer says, Rabbi Yehoshua, Mekanila al pi shnaim, umashka al pi shnaim. Whereas Rabbi Yehoshua says, no, both the kinoi and the stira has to be involving two witnesses. So he warns her in front of two witnesses, and also we need two witnesses to say that she then subsequently secluded herself with this fellow. Kate said, Mekanila will the warning look like? Omer la b'fnei shnaim, he says to her, right, the husband says to the wife in front of two witnesses, Al tadabri im ish ploni, do not speak with so-and-so. V'dibra imo, and she spoke to him. Adayini mutaris leveso, mutaris lechel b'shuma. So that just speaking to the fellow is not going to sort of have any consequences. At least it doesn't seem that way from this. She could still, they could still remain together, right? Meaning the husband and wife can still remain together, even though she spoke to so-and-so. And if she's a Bas Yisrael and he's a Kohen, she can continue eating Truma. But if she goes into a secluded area, and she waited in that area, in the secluded space, right? The wife and the so-and-so were in the secluded space for enough time that they could have had bia, or at least some form of it, asura levesa, so then at that point she cannot remain with her husband anymore. Vasura lechel b'truma, if she's a Bas Yisrael and her husband is a Kohen, she can no longer eat Trume. Ve'emes choletzes v'lo misyabemes, and if the husband dies and they don't have any children, so of course normally there would be yibum, but she doesn't do yibum. In this case she would do chalitza, as of course we know about from Masechta Yevamis. Okay, that was the first Mishnah of Masechta Sotah. I will take a Babylon break. Okay, I am back. Now, it says the Gemara Michte. Let's see. Tanim Nazir Solik. What was the previous, the Friediger Masechta? What was the previous Masechta? Of course, new. One Masechta we were learning yesterday. Masechta Nazir. My Tana, Dikatana Sotah. How come we go from Nazir to Sotah? How come the next Masechta after Nazir is Masechta Sotah? Rebbe, it's like Rebbe Tanya, as we learned in the Brisa, I think already twice before. Rebbe Omer Lo Menismucha Parshas Nazir LeParshas Sotah. How come the Parsha of Nazir is juxtaposed in the Torah after Parshas Sotah? Lo Malach, to say to you, Shekol Hara Sotah B'Kilkula Yazir Atzmo Min HaYayin, that anybody who sees a Sotah in her Sotah state of, looking what happens, and it's because she drank wine, she was she's a married woman and she drank wine and was hanging out with other men and having affairs and stuff, and it all goes back to wine. So Yazir Atzmo Min HaYayin. So he'll say, that's it. This is what wine does. I'm going to be a Nazir and I'm not going to drink any wine. Fine. Okay. So that is why the Parsha of Nazir comes after the Parsha of Sotah. Now, v'lisnei Sotah v'adu lesnei Nazir. So then wouldn't it make sense that Masechta Sotah should come before Masechta Nazir? So the Gemara says, listen, I did the Tana Ksubis, V'Tana Madir, Tana Nidor. Well, since, if you remember, way back when, excuse me, 1 second, I gotta rub my nose. Fine. Okay. Anyways, if you remember way back when, to Masechta Ksubis, that was before Nazir, before Nidarim, we were in Ksubis. And in Ksubis, there was a parak there called Parak Hamadir. Somebody who makes Nidarim. So, once already you're talking about Hamadir, so what's the, sort of the natural next Masechta? Nidarim. Tana Nidarim. V'aydi the Tana Nidarim. And then, once already we're talking about Nidarim, Tana Nazir. Didami Linidarim. So then, after Nidarim, it made sense to learn Masechta Nazir, because Nazir after Nazirus, after all, is a type of neder. It's a neder Nazirus. So from Parak Hamadir and Ksubis, it made sense to then go to Nidarim, which then made logical sense to go to Nazir. So then, B'Katani Sotah Kidirebi, and then once already you kind of got those, and then already, Rebbe had drawn a connection between Sotah and Nazir. So once already we're doing Nazir, let's already Chaparain and bring in Sotah so that we can keep that juxtaposition together, even if it's technically out of order, but the relationship remains. Okay. Hamakane di Evid in Chatchilalo, says the Gemara, that if you look at our Mishnah, the first word of the Mishnah, Hamakane. So it doesn't say Mikane liishto, that a fellow should warn his wife. It says somebody who did warn his wife. So interestingly, says the Gemara, di Evid in Chatchilalo. So according to this opinion, actually, a husband warning his wife is actually b'di'evid. He really shouldn't do it. Kasavar Tana Didan Osur Likanus. Our Tana holds that actually you're not allowed to be Mekane. If you did it, so Beseder, so we have this whole Masechta. But you really shouldn't be doing it in the first place, as we're going to learn. I think we'll probably get there at the end of today's daf. Depends where we stop. But I suspect we'll get, I don't know. We'll have to see. Maybe we'll stop before this. Maybe we'll get to there at the end. We'll have to see. Because tomorrow I think we're going to stop early. So maybe we'll stop here early today as well. So interestingly, says the Gemara that this whole Sotah thing, right? The husband warning his wife, which of course he has to do in order for her to be able to drink Mei Sotah. So it all really comes down, starts with, as we're going to see a little bit later on the daf, with this warning. So it's all b'diavad. He really shouldn't be doing it in the first place. He really shouldn't be warning her in the first place. Amr Shmuel bar Nachmani, Amr Yitzchak. No, Amr Shmuel bar Rav. Okay, let's try it again. Amr Shmuel bar Yitzchak, says of Shmuel bar Yitzchak, ki have a posach Rishlakish b'Sotah, or when Rishlakish would start darshaning Sotah, with regards to Sotah, Amr Hachi, he would say the following: Ein mezavgin loy lo'adam isha el lefi maisav. That the Eibishter is mesharich to a fellow, a wife, based on his character. Shenemar, the Apostle says, Ki lo yanuach shevet haresh al geir al tzadikim. That you won't have Rishayim with tzaddikim. Fellows are tzaddiks, he marries a tzaddikis. A Rasha, a nudnik, he marries a nudnikis. A nudnekis. A nudnik and a nudnekis. Amar Rabbi Babachanam Rabbi Yochanan v'koshem the zavim kikriyas yamsuf. We've seen this before. How many times have we seen this before? Once? Twice? Let's see. Maybe twice already? Once? Oh, maybe we haven't seen it at all. Oh, apparently Moed Katan. Okay. Oh, interesting. Okay. Fine. So it says Rabbi Chanan Rabbi Yochanan v'koshen l'zavim k'shir samsuf. It's pretty famous, right? That making a shidduch is as difficult for the Eibishter as it was to split the sea. Shneimar, the pasuk says, "Elokim moshiv yichidim beisa," that the Eibishter makes shidduchim, motzi asir b'kosharos, and he juxtaposes that with Yitzias Mitzrayim. That and Kriyas Yamsuf memele. So for the Eibishter to make a shidduch is as difficult as Kriyas Yamsuf. Ini, is this so? V'omer Rav Yehuda Amar Rav. Rav Yehuda says, "Name Rav, I buy him yom kod mitzias avolod." That 40 days before the volod, the fetus is created, Basko Yotzes, a heavenly voice goes out v'omeres and says, Bas Ploni Lefloni, that the daughter of so and so is going to be married to so and so. Base Ploni Lefloni, such and such a house is going to be to so and so. Sotah Ploni Lefloni, such and such a field is going to be to so and so. No. So on the one hand, we're saying that it's really, really hard to make shidduchim. On the other hand, we're saying that actually shidduchim are preordained 40 days already before the little bugger is. That's not nice. Before the fetus is created. Lokasha bezivig rishon or bezivig sheni. It depends. For a fellow to get married for the first time, so that's already preordained. But to have to make a second shidduch for whatever reason, so that's already much more complicated. It's like Kriyas Yamsuf. Okay. Rabbi Eliezer Omer Mekani Lo Al Pishnayim V'chulei. Okay, so we saw this machlokes in the Mishnah between Rabbi Eliezer and Rabbi Yoshua about how many witnesses you need, right? Both Rabbi Eliezer and Rabbi Yoshua had agreed that you need 2 witnesses for the kinui, for the warning. Now Rabbi Eliezer said you only needed 1 witness for this. You only need 1 witness for the stira. Rabbi Yoshua says you need 2 witnesses for the stira as well. So now says the Gemara, Ad kan lo plige ela b'kinu v'stira, ava b'tuma ed echad meimen. Oh. So as I mentioned in the, as I was babbling before we began the daf, so we said there's kinoi, stira, and tumah. Kinoi is when the husband warns the wife. Stira is when she's in a secluded room, but we don't know what they did in there. Tumah is actual beer. So while there's a machlokas between Rabbi Eliezer and Rabbi Yoshua with regard, I'm being distracted by something. I don't know what it is. Oh, maybe my hair. So we saw opinions about right. Both Rabbi Eliezer and Rabbi Yoshua agree that you need two witnesses for the kinoi. There's machlokes about by the stira, do you need two, do you need one? However, Avol Betuma Eid Echad Mehemen. But everyone agrees, and I'm going to go with this understanding because I think that it's correct. I'm going to go with this understanding, which is that once you have the kinoi and the stira, and now she has to drink the Sotah, but she hasn't drank it yet. So then, if one witness comes and says that and testifies that she had bia with this fellow, well then she doesn't drink the Sotah anymore, and everyone agrees that that is one witness, not two witnesses. Okay. But to testify that they actually had bia, so then it's just one witness is believed. But Tananami mitaka oiched have a mishnah eid echad omer, that if one witness says ani reisi shenitmes, I saw that she became that they had bia lo isa shosa, then she would not drink the mei chatas anymore. Now, interestingly, we're about to see the word aid a lot, and we're about to see the word odd a lot. So as I read, I have to keep on saying to myself, is this odd or is this aid? Okay. Midaraisa minolan the mehemen aid echod. So how do we know that? Where do we see in the Torah that in aid echod that one witness would be enough to testify about this woman having bia? Oh, friends, you ready? This is a sugya. Friends, this is a sugya. I think it's a sugya from Sanhedrin. It's a sugya l'maisa. L'maisa, it's a sugya. We're doing some real gemaras l'maisa. Some real gemaras. We're back. It feels like after 5 months, we're back into the shakli v'tarya. Oh, so how do we know that take one witness is enough for the tumah? Okay, I think I'm just going to refer to kinui, stira, and tumah. Okay, y'all with me on what those things are? I think we've defined them. Okay. So that we learned in a brayse. So geschmack. Ve'ed ein ba, so geschmack. Okay. Ve'ed ein ba b'shnai makosiv, so geschmack. Ve'ed ein ba b'shnai makosiv medaber. So geschmack. So it says, what does it say in the pasuk? It says, v'shachav yishos shich vazer v'nel me'ene isha v'nistira v'nitma ve'ed ein ba v'ilonus pasuk. It says v'nitma, that she had bia, right, nitma. Ve'ed ein ba, there was no witness. V'ilonus pasuk, and it was consensual, so therefore she's aser. Okay? So it says ve'ed ein ba b'shnai makosum v'daber. That when the pasuk says ve'ed ein ba, it's talking about there were not two witnesses. That when it says aid memele, it's not talking about one witness, it's talking about testimony. And testimony is with two witnesses. So when the Torah says aid, it means two witnesses. So ve'ed ein ba b'shnai makosum v'daber. That when it says ve'ed ein ba, means there were two witnesses, ein ba, there were not. There were not two witnesses, there was only one. Oh, wait, but maybe aid ein ba doesn't mean that there weren't two witnesses, means that maybe aid does mean a single witness. And it's saying the aid ein ba, there was no single witness. There were no witnesses at all. So we have another pasuk that says that by Mominus it says lo yakum aid echad ba'ish. That you can't have an aid echad, one witness. Why do I need the word lo yakum eid echad ba'ish? Why do I need that? Why not just say lo yakum eid ba'ish? I can't have a witness to testify about a fellow, i.e., witness is singular. So if we would just say lo yakum eid ba'ish, I would know mimela that means that you can't have one witness testify. So don't I already know that he's one? So why does the pasuk have to say one? Zebana of, because what it's teaching us is that kol makom shenemar aid harekan shnayim. That by default, what the Torah is teaching us by saying aid echad is that it's saying, well, actually by default, aid is not referring to the witness, it's referring to the testimony, and testimony needs to be two. Until the pasuk specifically says, like it says here, echad. that if the pasuk says Eid Echad, it means one witness. But if it doesn't say Echad, if it just says Eid, then it means two witnesses. And now coming back to our Gemara by Sotah, when it says Ve'ed ein ba v'hi lo nispaso, it means Ve'ed ein ba, there were no two witnesses, rather elachad, there was one witness, v'hi lo nispaso asura, and it's saying, right, Ve'ed ein ba v'hi lo nispaso, it was consensual, and therefore what the Torah is saying is that it's asura. So therefore, by Sotah, when it says Ve'ed ein ba v'hi lo nispasa, it means that there were no two witnesses, rather there was one witness, and it was consensual, and therefore she is asura. So now, Fekti Gemara, 1 second. You just built up this whole mahalich based on the fact that we have the pasuk of Lo yakum eid echad ba'ish, that because it says eid echad, so that means that whenever it doesn't say echad, it means two. And therefore, our pasuk of Ve'ed ein ba means that there weren't two, there was only one. But 1 second, at the time dichsiv lo yakum eid echad ba'ish. 1 second, you built up this whole argument, this whole logical thing, this whole mahalich, based on the fact, right? Based on the cornerstone of it was lo yakum eid echad ba'ish. Halavachi havamina eid de Sotah Chad who? So does that mean that if not for the fact that we have the pasuk of Lo Yakum Eid Echad Be'ish, from which we learn that when it says Eid, it means two. If I wouldn't have Lo Yakum Eid Echad Be'ish, are you telling me that I would look at the pasuk by Sotah and say the Eid Ein Ba? I would have thought to say that there wasn't one witness, V'hi lo nispasa, and she's asura. Would you really think? Forget about Lo yakum eid echad b'ish. Forget about that pasuk. Let's just look for a second at the pasuk of the Eid ein ba. I think there's a sunflower person outside riding a motorcycle again. I feel like it happens on Fridays. Anyways, are you telling me that if we didn't have Lo yakum eid echad b'ish, I would look at the pasuk and really think that when it says Ve'ed ein ba v'hi lo nispasa, it means that there were no witnesses and she's asura? That there wasn't even one witness and she's asura? If there were no witnesses at all, so then how could she be asura? So the Gemara says, why are you making this whole argument based on the fact that we have a pasuk that says Lo yakum eid echad be'ish, from which we learn out that whenever it says eid, it means two, and therefore reading that into our pasuk of the eid ein ba v'hi lo nispasa, it means that there weren't two witnesses, there was only one, and that's why she's asura. And what if I didn't have the Eid Ein Ba, if I didn't have Lo Yakum Eid Echad B'ish, would I really look at the pasuk of the Eid Ein Ba and say that there were no witnesses at all and she's asura? How could that be possible? Of course there would have to be at least one witness. No, we still need, right? So therefore the Gemara wants to try to argue that I actually don't need Lo Yakum Eid Echad B'ish, because it's just obvious that you have to have one witness when it comes to Sotah, because the alternative seemingly is that there were no witnesses, and that's just crazy. If there were no witnesses, now how could she be asura? So the Gemara says, no, we still do need the pasuk of Lo Yakum Eid Echad B'ish, because I may have thought to look at the pasuk like this, meaning if I didn't have Lo Yakum Eid Echad B'ish, I would look at the pasuk by Sotah, which says Ve'ed ein ba, and I may have thought to say the following: not that there were no witnesses, but I may have thought to say Eid ein ba ein neman ba, that Eid ein ba ein neman ba, that what it means when it says Eid ein ba, it means that, wait, what? Okay, Eid ein ba ein neman ba, that one witness is not believed. I may have thought to say that you need two witnesses, meaning up until now we were arguing that without Lo Yakum Eid Echad Ba'ish, from which we learned that Eid means two, and we're saying Eid ein ba, there weren't two witnesses, there were only one witness. Then we said, well, that's what? It's not like I would have thought to say otherwise that Eid ein ba, that there wasn't one witness, i.e. there were no witnesses. That's just crazy. But says the Gemara, no, we wouldn't have thought to say that the Eid ein ba means that there were no witnesses at all. I may have thought to say Eid ein ba means that one witness is not enough. Eid ein ba, if there's only one witness, Ein ba, that's not enough. You need to have two witnesses. Eid ein ba, ein neman ba. That one witness is not believed, you have to have two witnesses. Ein neman ba. To which the Gemara says, what? Ve'ela mai boy. Ad ika trey. So what are you saying? You have to have two witnesses? Lishto kramine. But then I don't need a pasuk to tell me that I need two witnesses. The asya davar davar mi mamon. Because we have a gzeir shava that it says davar by kimotza ba ervas davar, right? When it comes to problematic relationships happening in the context of a marriage, so it says kimotza ba ervas davar, and it also says al pishnayim edim al pishlosha edim yakum davar, which is where it also says right. So it says davar also by the requirement to have two witnesses. So and I know that you always need two witnesses. So therefore, the Mishnah, so not the Mishnah, the Gemara. So meaning again, the Gemara's question is, why do I really need the pasuk of lo yakum eid echad beish? I could really get to the same conclusion without it, because obviously when it says ve'eid ein ba, obviously it doesn't mean that there were no witnesses at all and she's a surah, because that's just crazy. So obviously I know that it means one witness. So the Gemara says not necessarily, because I could have said that no, ve'eid ein ba means that that if there's only one witness, it's not good enough, you need to have two witnesses. And therefore I need lo yakum eid echad beish to teach me that no, aid means two, and therefore aid ein ba means that there weren't two witnesses, there were only one. Because otherwise I would have thought to say you have to have two witnesses. To which the Gemara says, why would I have thought to say you would have to? Well, if it's to say that you have to have two witnesses, well then we don't need this pasuk at all, because you always need two witnesses. I wouldn't need the pasuk to say for aid ein ba that one witness is not enough. You need two. Obviously you need two. You always need two. So it's no, I could make the argument that yes, in general you do need two, but maybe I could have thought that by Sotah all you need is one, because Sagadaite Chamina shiny, Sotah shiny. I may have thought to say that Sotah is different, Diraglaim Ladover, that because there's already suspicion. Interesting that at the end of Masechta Nazir we were talking about Raglaim Ladover, and here on the first half of Sotah we're talking about Raglaim Ladover. Sharekine lo vinistira, the same one by Echod. Because I may have thought to say that when it comes to Sotah, maybe I could accept one witness, because after all, there was already Kinoi and Stira, and now you have one witness that says that there was also Tumah, so maybe I could think that one would be enough. Therefore, you need the pasuk to say Ve'eid ein ba. It means that there wasn't one witness. One witness is not enough. You need two witnesses, even though there was already kinui and stira. And therefore, tying it into the context of a Gemara, what we're saying is that we need the pasuk of lo yakum eid echad beish to teach me that whenever it said eid, it means two, which means that in our pasuk of the eid ein ba, it means that there weren't two witnesses, there were only one. Because if I wouldn't have the pasuk of lo yakum eid echad beish, I may have thought, like we just said now, that what it means is ve'eid ein ba means that one witness is not enough. You need two witnesses. Umimatzis omart de ein nemon ba visharya. So is it really true then to say that you need two witnesses, and ve'eid ein ba means that one witness is not trusted, is discredited, and then she's permitted? But from the fact that it says ve'eid ein ba v'hilo nispasa, and she's asura, then what do you mean that one witness is not believed and she's asura? So itzrich sagadate chamina. Well, I could have said ein neman ba ad diika trei uvetrei nami hi delo nispasa. No, so you could explain that what it means is that ve'eid ein ba, that one witness is not believed. You need to have two witnesses, and then v'hilo nispasa, and still, even when you have two witnesses, it's only if it was hilo nispas. It was only if it was consensual. But if it was forced, if it was against her will, then it would not be it wouldn't be held against her. So kamashmala. So that is why we need the pasuk of Lo Yakum Eid Echad B'ish, because if we don't have the pasuk of Lo Yakum Eid Echad B'ish, I could have theoretically looked at the pasuk of Ve'ed Ein Ba and made the argument that it means that one witness is not believed, you have to have two witnesses. And then those two witnesses would have to testify that it was consensual. So therefore, we need to rely upon the pasuk of Lo Yakum Eid Echad B'ish to say that whenever, if it was talking about one witness, it would say Eid Echad, and therefore over here when it says Ve'ed Ein Ba, it doesn't say Echad, it means that there weren't two witnesses, there was only one witness, and therefore, because of the precedent established by Lo Yakum Eid Echad B'ish, we can then read into our pasuk of Ve'ed Ein Ba to say that there weren't two witnesses, there was only one witness, and V'hi Lo Nispasa, and she's Asura. So we see that one witness is enough when it comes to testifying about the tumah. Okay, fine. Rabbi Yoshua Omer Mekanela Pishnayim V'chules. Rabbi Yoshua had said that not only by the kinoi is two witnesses required, but also by the stira, two witnesses are required. My time with Rabbi Yoshua. How come Rabbi Yoshua says that you have to have two witnesses for the stira as well? So I'm recording because the pasuk says ba. It says ve'ed ein ba. That one witness is believed for ba, for the tumah. Ba v'lo b'kinoi v'lo b'stira. That one witness is believed is enough for the tumah. But it's limited to the tumah. For the kinoi, for the stira, you need to have two witnesses, like every other testimony. Rabbi Eliezer Omer, whereas Rabbi Eliezer says ba, that when it says ve'ed ein ba, that one witness is enough for it, for tumah, okay, it means one witness is enough for tumah to the exclusion of one other thing that one witness is not enough, that you need two. And says Rabbi Eliezer, the one other thing that, right, meaning he says ba, to the exclusion of one other thing, the other thing that does not require one witness is the kinoi. The kinoi needs two witnesses. However, the stira can also have one witness, just like the tumah. Rabbi Eliezer Omer ba v'lo b'kinoi, but by the kinoi you need two witnesses. Ve'ema ba v'lo b'stira. Maybe I'll say that one witness is enough for tumah, but the stira needs two witnesses, and then the kinoi could be with one. So stira iskish l'tumah d'chsiv v'nistar v'nitma. To which the Gemara says, well, yes, but stira is compared to the tumah, as it says v'nistara v'hinitma. So stira is compared to tumah, and therefore is juxtaposed to tumah, and therefore, just like the tumah is one witness is enough, so also the stira, one witness is enough. Kinoi nami is kash tumah d'chsev v'kinei asishto v'nitma. But I can also find a pasuk where kinoi is in the same breath as tumah, as it says v'kinei asishto v'nitma. So we see that. So let's compare kinoi to tumah and say that just like tumah is with one witness, so kinoi is with one witness. So ha mi'et rachmana ba. So we say, yeah, but the Torah says ba to exclude the kinoi, that the kinoi needs to be with two witnesses. Umara Isa, but still, again, back to our question. How come ba is to say that tumah is with one witness, but kinoi is with two witnesses? Maybe I'll say tumah is with one witness, but stira is with two witnesses. So mistavra, stira, adifa. So the Gemara says, well, let's make the argument. I can argue that it makes more sense to say that stira is what we're comparing to tumah, to say that it requires one witness. Shekain osarta kituma. Because it's the stira that makes her asura just like tumah, right? That once she's secluded with this other fellow, she can no longer be together with her husband anymore. Just like if one witness were to come and say that she actually had bia with this other fellow, she would not be able to remain with her husband. Adraba, kinoi adif. I'll make the argument that actually the kinoi is the stronger contendant to be contendant, maybe to be compared to tumah. The kinoi should be compared to tumah. Shekin ikr garamla, because that's like the main thing. I lav stira kinoi mi ika. To which the Gemara says, yeah, but if their ultimate kira might be the what's it called? The kinoi might be the initial sort of starting point. But if there's no stira, if she doesn't actually seclude herself, so then the kinoi doesn't really amount to much. Bi lav kinoi stira mayani. But at the same time, I can make the fakert. I can argue punkt fakert that even if there was stira, if there's no kinoi, so then it's irrelevant also. So afilu achi stira adifa, still we say that stira is the better sort of connection to tumah, because the aschalta de tumahi, because the stira, the seclusion, is the beginning of the tumah. right? That I guess you go into a secluded area, and then you have tuma, then you have bia. So therefore, that is why it makes sense to connect stira with tuma, and both stira and tuma, according to Rabbi Eliezer, are with one witness, but kinoi would be with two witnesses. Now says the Gemara, Masnisen do ki aitane tetanye, that our Mishnah is not like the following brayse that we learn in a brayse. Reb Yossi Reb Yehuda Omer Mishum Rabbi Eliezer. That Reb Yossi Reb Yehuda says from Rabbi Eliezer, Hamekane leishto mekane alpi eid echod o alpi atzmo umashul alpi shnayim ho ho. That Reb Yossi Reb Yehuda says from Rabbi Eliezer that fakert, right? In our Mishnah, Rabbi Eliezer had said that the kinoi has to be with two, but the steer could be with one. In this brayso, though, Rabbi Yossi Reb Yehuda is quoting Rabbi Eliezer as saying fakert, that the kinoi could just be with one witness, or even just himself, but the stira needs to be with two witnesses. Heshivu chacham divrei Rabbi Yossi Reb Yehuda ein lo davar sof. But the rabbis responded that according to Rabbi Yossi Reb Yehuda, who says that the kinoi could just be with one, that's a slippery slope. My time with Rabbi Yossi Reb Yehuda, why does Rabbi Yossi, and we're going to explain the slippery slope in a minute, why does Rabbi Yossi Reb Yehuda say that the kinoi could be with one witness? On my crowd, because the pasuk says ba, because the pasuk says that the tuma ba, it can be with one witness, ba velo b'stira. It's the exclusion of the stira. The stira has to be with two witnesses, right? The tuma can be with one witness, but the stira has to be with two witnesses. Ve'ema ba velo b'kinoi. Let's say that when it says that tuma could be with one, to the exclusion of kinoi, that kinoi needs to be with two. Kinoi iskash letuma. Yeah, but kinoi is compared to juxtaposed with tuma d'chsev v'kinoi ishto v'nitma, as the pasuk says, right? Kinoi ishto, that's kinoi and tuma. So we compare them. So therefore, those are both with one. Stira nami iskash tuma d'chsev v'nisto v'nitma, as we said earlier. But also by the stira it says v'nisto v'nitma. So stira is juxtaposed to tuma. So let's say that the stira is with one witness. Aud l'chama shir stira kedei tuma huda also. So to which we say, no, the juxtaposition of stira to tuma, that is not to teach that stira is with one witness like tuma. Rather, it's to teach that how long do they have to be secluded in a room in order for it to be create a sort of sotah situation. So enough time to have beer. Okay, fine. So that's what we want to say, and therefore it's kinoi that's compared to tuma, to say that by kinoi you only need one witness, but by stira you would need two. So my nihu. So the Gemara asks that when the rabbis had responded to Rabbi Yossi Reb Yehuda and say they said that according to what you're suggesting, that the kinoi only needs one witness, well then that's a slippery slope. What's so slippery? Well, because what happens if he never actually warned her, and he's in an argument with her, and he gets upset, and he gets angry, and he says, that's it, I had warned you not to be with so-and-so, even though he never did. And then he goes and he finds witnesses that she was secluded with him, which, she wasn't ever told not to be. But now all of a sudden he's making up out of nowhere, out of thin air, that he had warned her not to be with this fellow. And now all of a sudden there are witnesses that she was secluded with this fellow, because I guess maybe she was, because she was never told not to be. And now all of a sudden you have a sotah situation, even though it's really not true. That's why it's a slippery slope. But what, does that imply that our Mishnah is any better? Our Mishnah is also a slippery slope. Zimnin, in our Mishnah it's just fakert, but it's the same thing. That he might warn her in front of two witnesses, but then maybe he'll get upset at her, and just on his own he'll say, you know what, I saw you, right? Because it says that one witness is enough, or even he himself, and he can just say, I saw you secluded yourself with that fellow who I warned you in front of witnesses not to be with. That's also a pretty slippery slope. Amr Yitzchak bar Yosef Amr Reb Yochanan after divrei Reb Yossi Reb Yehuda ein l'davar sof. So it says Reb Yitzchak bar Yosef named Reb Yochanan that even Rabbi Yossi, Reb Yehuda's version is a slippery slope. So, af l'divrei Rabbi Yossi Rabbi Yehuda v'lo mibari l'mishnasenu. So that implies that even according to Rabbi Yossi Rabbi Yehuda, it's a slippery slope, and certainly our Mishnah is a slippery slope. Certainly our Mishnah, where he could, right, where you only need one witness or even himself for the stira, where he could just say, you know what, you were secluded, and that's enough. That's definitely a slippery slope. But even Rabbi Yossi Rabbi Yehuda's version, where according to Rabbi Eliezer, the kinoi could be with one witness, that's a slippery slope. Adab, it should be fakir, it should be the opposite. The Mishnah Senu, Iker, in our Mishnah, at least the warning, the initial thing was with two witnesses. Hasam leke Iker. Over there's the kinoi was not, right, the initialization, the kinoi was not with witnesses. So therefore, I think the bigger chiddush is that to say that even our Mishnah is a slippery slope. Ela itmar hachi. Rather, it's like this. Amar Yitzchak bar Yosef, Amar Rabbi Yochanan, the divrei Rabbi Yossi Rabbi Yehuda, af l'mishnasenu ein l'davar sof. Okay, that Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Yehuda is definitely a slippery slope, because according to his version, the kinoi was not with two witnesses. But even our Mishnah, where the kinoi was with two witnesses, it's still a slippery slope, because he could then, if he gets upset, he could just make up out of thin air that she was secluded with somebody, and then all of a sudden she's a sotah. Amr b'chanino misura, says b'chanino misura, lo lema inish le'itze b'zman hazeh, lo tistri b'hadei ploni, that a husband should not say to his wife nowadays, don't be with so-and-so, don't seclude yourself in so-and-so, because Dilma Kaimel Rabbi Yossi Rabbi Yehuda, because maybe we hold like Rabbi Yossi Rabbi Yehuda's explanation of Rabbi Eliezer, which is that the kinoi only needs to be in front of one witness, or even just in front of himself. The Amar kinoi al pi atzmo, that he can just do the kinoi by himself, mistatra, and then if she secludes herself with this fellow, and there's nowadays we don't have meisota, and now they'll be forbidden to be with each other forever, because she was warned and then secluded, and there's no meisota, and they're basically stuck. Friends, should we maybe let's go shtickle weiter. Let's go shtickle weiter, because I talked before about, right, the Gemara had started out teaching about how Sotah being Mekane, a husband warning his wife, is really b'diavad. He's really not supposed to do it. So here's that discussion. Omer Rish Lakish, says Rish Lakish, ma loshen kinoi. What does kinoi mean? So I had explained it as meaning a warning, but that's actually a machlokas, as we're about to see. Davar kino beina levein acher. So and that's why you can imagine that it's b'diavad, right? That you shouldn't be doing it. That kinoi, explains Rish Lakish, is something that creates jealousy or rift between his wife and everybody else. Al maksavar kinoi al pi atzmo, which implies that Rish Lakish's take is that he could do the kinoi just by himself. He doesn't need witnesses. Which therefore means that nobody else other than him and her know that this kinoi happened. The kanila, and they don't know that he did this kinoi. Ve'amre, and they say, my dekama dekabadla. And then everyone's wondering, like, what's the deal with this wife? Why is she no longer like being around anybody else? And it's gonna create a rift between everybody and her, because they don't realize that there was a kinoi, because only the husband was there for the kinoi, and therefore it's gonna create a rift and jealousy and bad vibes between her and everybody else. Rav Yemar bar Reb Shlamya Mishmei da Abaye Omer, whereas Rav Yemar bar Shlamya says the name of Abaye, Dovra matil kina beino levena, that it's fakert. It's something that creates a jealousy between. I think kina is jealousy. No, let me look it up. 1 second. Anger, apparently. Okay, so it's something that creates anger between the husband and the wife. Amok savar kinu al pi shnaim edim, which means that Rabbi Yemar bar Shlamya, in the name of Abaye or from Abaye, in the name of Abaye, holds that the kinoi needs to be in front of two witnesses, and therefore v'chuli alma yadeh, because it's in front of two witnesses, so everybody knows that there was this kinoi, the kani law, that he did this kinoi, ve'ihu hu da'asin lemebud kina bahada, and then because everybody knows about this, it's going to create friction and anger between him and her, and that's lashon of kinoi. So we see that according to Rish Lakish and according to Abaye, kino is a lashon of kino, of anger, and therefore alma kasabri do asur lekanos, and therefore if it's about anger, so then asur lekanos, you wouldn't be allowed to it's something that you're not allowed to do. B'di'eved, if he did do the kinoi, so then there's this whole masechta, but he really shouldn't do it in the first place. And according to the opinion that it's permitted to do this kinui, what does kinui mean? It means a warning. So that the Eibishter warned his land. So that's just a warning, in which case it's permitted. He warns his wife, like, don't be with so and so. Okay, there's a sunflower situation going outside. Friends, that was the base of Masechta Sotah. Woo! Oh my gosh, friends. We are back. This is a big daf. We really lummed this over here. We really had to use our brains a little bit. We started, of course, Masechta Sotah, and we saw the machlokas between Rabbi Yoshua and Rabbi Eliezer. Both Rabbi Yoshua, at least in our Mishnah, both Rabbi Yoshua and Rabbi Eliezer agree that the kinui has to be with two witnesses. Rabbi Eliezer says that the stira could be in front of one witness. Rabbi Yoshua says that also has to be with two witnesses. We learned that one witness is enough for tum'ah, to prevent her from drinking the mesota, and then she would not be able to remain married to her husband. We learned the concept of whenever it says in the pasuk aid, it means two witnesses, unless it specifically says aid echad. Then it would mean one witness, but by default aid means two witnesses. We saw a differing brisa with Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Yehuda, explaining Rabbi Eliezer that actually the one witness is for the kinui, and the two witnesses are for the stira. And then at the end we saw two explanations of what kinui means. Right? One opinion is that kinui means creating anger, whereas the other opinion is that kinui means a warning. Friends, that was that base of Masechta Sotah. Hope you enjoyed. Peace out.